In a world of horror, countless hours of cinema, what is truly terrifying? What will keep the kids up at night? What scene can never be unseen? Join us as we watch everything horror and discover the 13 degrees of screams.
Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams.
We're your hosts, Stephanie
And Alex.
And this week we are chased down by an unknown entity in It Follows.
So, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Have you watched It Follows before we watched it for the podcast?
No, I knew enough about it though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was one of those ones like I watched a review on and stuff
no
like
shit.
that, and I just knew a lot of details about.
Okay,
but never
interesting.
actually physically seen it.
Oh, okay, because you suggested it. So I'm like, oh, she must like it.
No.
But you've never seen it?
Never seen it. And I was like, oh, I should check it off because, you know, like it interests me, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just watched some reviews of it.
I was like, she definitely knows.
No, for sure not.
Oh, wow. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
Really?
I thought it was good.
Yay!
Do you like it?
I love It Follows.
Oh, good, good.
I actually only seen it a handful of times, and I hadn't watched it in a long time.
Oh,
so I was
okay.
really excited that you chose it. I was like, yes, It Follows.
The tall guy?
Oh,
I don't
he's
fuck
the
with him.
worst. He's the scariest part.
I'm like, why do you keep choosing that one?
I will admit that part freaks me out when I see him in the hallway for the
not
first
all
time.
of them, but
Yeah,
him, yeah.
Yep.
Hate him.
That bumped up my scary rating when we talk about it. Him specifically. I'm
Yeah.
like, no! But I really like It Follows. I love the vibes and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's so, like, dreamlike.
Yeah. And very, like, summer, like high school summer.
You know what? It feels like high school summer, but this is really weird specific. It feels like summer, but on those really random cool days of summer.
Yes. Like, it's not hot. Everyone's just available and stuff like that. That's why it feels like high school summer. Like, everyone's just ready to deal with all of this further. Which is great. I'm like, wow, you have friends in college that will do stuff with you?
I know. Yeah,
Good for you.
Is this college?
She is a university student. But I'm like, oh, the way I would struggle.
Yeah, it almost seems like whatever school she's in is like in her hometown almost.
Yeah,
or like a
it must be. I mean, she
situation.
lives at home, so I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I really like about this movie? And I can't even remember if I mentioned it in the movie background, to be honest. I like how you can't really pinpoint what time period this takes place in.
Yeah. Like the one friend, Yara, she's always reading on this little shell.
Yeah,
phone
it's the weirdest thing.
And I'm like, what is this?
It's like the only piece of technology that you
But
see
no one
that's
has
like very bizarre.
regular cell phones or anything, it seems.
And they actually include older cars and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the TV they watch and the shows are older.
Yeah, like the big television sets rather than
TVs.
the boob tubes.
Boob tubes. So I really like that. And it also just lends to the dreamlike quality of this movie where you're like, you know, when you wake up and you still remember your dream a little bit, but everything's like a little fuzzy. And you're like, well, that was a really weird detail. That doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
That's what this movie feels like to me.
Right. Yeah, it just has that high school summer-esque, like, is this the 70s or is this 10 years in the future? I don't know where I am.
I remember the first time I saw it, and then to your point, that thing she was reading, I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
Like, and then the music is also very, like, synthy, but subtly synthy.
Right.
Like, it's not, like, super
It kind of
intense.
reminds me of, like, Stranger Things sometimes. Like, not like the big moments, obviously, in
Right.
Stranger Things, but, like, the more subtle.
The atmospheric.
Yeah, like the theme of Stranger Things is very much this.
Yeah. I really like the vibes of this movie.
Yeah.
How do you like the main character, Jay?
I like her.
I like the friend group in this movie, too.
I do, too. Yeah.
Because we'll talk about it in the plot, of course, but at some point, I feel like this could have very easily been like, Jay's crazy the whole time, and no one believes her ever.
I was worried it was going to go that way for
but
a
it
second.
doesn't.
No.
And I'm like, hell yes!
I love that everyone's pretty much immediately on board, but I get mad at the neighbor kid, like, halfway through. I'm like, what the fuck? Why were you with them this whole time if you didn't think that this was really happening? Were you really just hoping to have sex with her? Was that all? Like,
probably, yeah.
Jesus.
Like, but he deserves it. Well, jumping
no one deserves that.
Well,
okay.
No, I wouldn't say he deserves it. But yeah, I like the friend group and how they all kind of rally behind her.
Yeah, even though like they can't see it. It's very much like the aggressive, violent version of like having a friend that still believes in Santa Claus, and you're just like, "Yep, yes, honey, we accept it. Santa's going to come tonight. Like, we'll be prepared."
We'll be prepared. But what's cool is at some point they do get proof
Mm-hmm.
Because that was another thing I was worried about in the movie, that
they'd be on board and then there'd be a breaking moment where they couldn't keep up the charade anymore with her.
But they never see any actual evidence of what's going on.
So then they just give up on her.
But that's not what happens.
Yeah.
So it's cool like that. I like it a lot. Ready to hear some movie background?
Yeah.
It Follows is a 2014 American horror film that was both written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. The movie centers around Micah Monroe's character, Jay, a young woman who becomes the target of a supernatural entity following a sexual encounter. Premiering at the 2014 Cannes Film Festival, the film was later acquired for distribution by Radius TWC. Following a successful limited release, it had a wider release 2 weeks later on March 27th in 2015. The film garnered widespread critical acclaim, particularly for its originality and the performances of its cast. Despite a modest budget of $1.3 million, It Follows grossed an impressive $23.3 million worldwide. Over time, it has developed a devoted fan base, with many hailing it as a modern horror classic. In October of 2023, a sequel titled They Follow was announced to be in development, with filming scheduled to begin in 2024.
Oh, that's exciting.
I know, woo!
Yeah. Funny enough, though, too, when Charlie and I were first talking, like before we even started really dating, one of the first movies we ever talked about was It Follows.
You just talked about it?
Well, because he had gone to see it with Matt, with a friend of ours. Yeah. He would not rewatch it with me.
Was he scared?
He did not like it. He's like, I do not like that.
He doesn't like it?
No. It's too scary. It's creepy. So
I mean, it is very unsettling. Yeah. And the situation sucks ass. Like, it's so bad.
Yeah.
But outside of the tall man, it's just like people like...
just gearing at you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I will say, though, there is that anxiety of whenever you're stationary, like, what the fuck's going on?
Oh, for sure.
Like, they're right outside.
Yeah, the anxiety of everything. And like I said, the situation is terrible. Mm-hmm. But the visuals of the movie, like, a lot of times it's just like someone, here they come, scooting along.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was in that, I would just jump off a building.
Honestly, like, I don't feel like you could ever be stress-free, even if you do. What's suggested is to pass it on. Know. You don't know when they're going to die.
Right, because...
Like, you can't pass it on and be like, by the way, I gave you this terrible thing. Call me if they're coming. Yeah.
Like, you don't know. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot in the plot, but it sucks. David Robert Mitchell conceived the film based on recurring dreams he had in his youth about being followed. This is a quote. I didn't use those images for the film, but the basic idea and the feeling I used. From what I understand, it's an anxiety dream. Whatever I was going through at the time, my parents divorced when I was around that age, so I imagine it was something to do with that. The role that sexual transmission plays came later from Mitchell's desire for something that could transfer between people. The score was composed by Rich Vreeland, better known as Disasterpiece, who does electronic and chiptune music, usually. So he did the music for this movie. Mm-hmm. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 95%, with a critical consensus stating, smart, original, and above all terrifying. It Follows a rare modern horror film that works on multiple levels and leaves a lingering sting. And then the audience score is only 66%.
Really?
Right.
People didn't like it? Like,
I don't know.
I think it was a really unique movie, especially for 2015.
Right. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's not right.
Because I feel like even if it premiered this year, it would still be a unique concept.
Oh, for
There's nothing like that right now.
No. And really, the idea is so simplistic. It's just the execution and the cinematography and everything that goes into it. Mm-hmm. It's very unique.
For sure. I liked it. I don't know why everyone didn't.
Me neither.
Are you ready for the plot?
I am.
We see Annie Marshall fleeing her house, seemingly being pursued, but denies that she needs help from onlookers. She gets into her car and drives away. That night, she sits alone on a beach and calls her parents to tell them she loves them. In the morning, we see her mutilated corpse on the beach. I'm like, oh, man.
Bro, her legs like...
She wrecked. She got wrecked.
She is. And girl is running in high heels this whole time.
I know.
Which, 2 seconds to change your shoes.
Right. And I was like, just go barefoot at this point. It's worth it.
I'm like, she's good, though. She's like ready to go.
Yeah.
She marathons in heels.
Granted, she's not tripping. I would have been like on the ground immediately.
No, she probably runs faster than I do. So go
honestly, though, when we were talking about the friend groups being solid and stuff like that, I would be this first girl, though. Like, I can't imagine getting 4 friends together in college and being like, by the way, I'm seeing shit. Like, and I'm scared we should go on a road trip. Everyone would be like, well, I have work and finals and stuff. And
you're on your own, bitch.
Like, I had a hard enough time getting Shantae to go to breakfast with me in the morning. I'd be like, please help.
Shantae's going to listen to this and be like, oh my God.
Right.
I'm offended for her.
No, she'll understand. She was really an introvert. It took me a while to get her out of there.
Oh, okay.
So we cut to the university student, Jay Height, who goes to a movie with her boyfriend, Hugh. While they wait for the movie, they play a guessing game with the crowd. And Hugh points out a girl in a yellow dress whom Jay says she cannot see.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. Unnerved, Hugh asks that they leave. The next day, Hugh and Jay have sex for the first time in his car, after which he incapacitates her with chloroform.
Ugh.
I was like, damn.
I know. Did you see that coming, or were you like, oh no?
I thought he would just take her aside and be like, hey, great time. But, yeah, I mean, I guess while I don't think what he did was necessarily the right thing to do, I don't think it was necessarily the wrong thing to do either, though, just to make sure that he was getting his point across. Like, by the way, like, this thing is real. Mm-hmm. And if you just ignore it or whatever, it's going to kill you and come get me.
Right.
I need you to understand. Like,
yeah,
which is fair, but I feel like, I don't know. I guess there could have been something else to do instead. But honestly, once you're in that situation, I can see you going like balls to the wall with everything you do.
Right. That was going to be my question to you is like, do you blame him for doing what he did? Because like, what else are you going to do? Like the chloroform part, like, okay.
I feel like we're going to get into theories about who could you pass it on to in that situation. Mm-hmm. Like, do you take time to tell them? Do you just leave and hope that buys you enough time? I think it was wrong to date her and give her that expectation that, like this was all hunky-dory, that he actually liked her and stuff when it was really just like that's all he wanted to do.
So you probably, what you're saying is maybe you could have just had a booty call.
Yeah.
Instead of like, let's date. Like that's a long game.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm sure he could have just like.
Hit it and quit it.
Yeah. And then still, I think him telling them was like, no, you need to do that.
That was the right thing to do. But I feel like leading her on. And also, I feel like that puts a lot of unnecessary stress on yourself, too. Mm-hmm. Like, for 2 months, you're on the run, basically, while you're trying to seduce and date this woman. And, I don't know, just feel like you could just go to a bar or a party where people are already in that mindset to hook up and just explain to them.
If they're college age, you could go to any party and, you're good to go.
Right.
The whole dating part, I don't agree with, but I do not blame him for like trying to pass it on. Like, what are you gonna do? It's like either you or somebody else. Like you're trying to survive. At first you're like, oh, icky, but then you're like, well, would I do that in that situation? Like, what am I gonna do? Just like, oh well,
just wait for it to kill me. Yeah.
Like, at some point you're gonna stop trying.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'd just jump off a bridge or something so that I'd have control over how I went rather than trying to worry about what... Because I'd be paranoid my whole life, too. Right. Like, when is it going to come back?
There was always this joke, and I forgot who I said it with or if I read it online. It's like, what if you, like, hop a plane and you go to another country? Are they going to, like, buy a plane ticket? Are they going to swim across the ocean? Like, how are they going to get to you?
Right.
Because you just imagine, like, the entity just, like, sitting there waiting for the plane to land. Like, on the plane, just like...
Yes.
So
I would love a meme for that, honestly.
That's the thing. Like, if you leave country, well, how is it going to swim? Is it going to turn into a shark?
Yeah, right.
Who knows?
I don't know, but it also feels like it cycles through certain people, though, and I'm wondering if it's like those are the past victims that it took, and that's why.
I don't know. Doesn't say.
But that would be an interesting theory for me.
Yeah. But we could talk about theories.
We're going to go through them all, I think, honestly.
But anyways, go ahead.
Yes. So after she's incapacitated with chloroform, she wakes up tied to a wheelchair where Hugh explains that he has passed something to her through intercourse. She will be pursued by an entity that only they can see, which can take the appearance of any person. It moves at a walking pace, but always knows where she is and will be approaching at all times. If it catches Jay, it will kill her and pursue the previous person to have passed it on. Hugh waits until a naked woman slowly approaches them to prove Jay is being followed, then urges her to have sex with someone else soon. And I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. But also I was like, are you really going to let her get got, like, right now? Because he lets her get real close.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he really needed to drive home.
Yeah, like, literally. And still, she goes home kind of thinking, like, maybe he was just a crazy person and this woman was working with him or something like that.
That'd be so crazy to, like, set that up.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he would.
But that's what they think logically. Like, that's what the family thinks.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you, like...
That's not something that happens.
Now, by the way, I'm being chased by a STD entity. Mm-hmm. And, no, it's like one of those things you say out loud. No one's going to believe you unless they have proof. So, And then also, yeah, he wouldn't have let her got because then he's just back to square one.
For him, yeah.
He's like, God damn it. he accidentally got her too close and it kills her.
He's like, another 2 months.
Go through my Rolodex.
He takes Jay home and dumps her outside her house before quickly driving away. And I was like, this is so much like an assault now.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Yeah. Like, no wonder the family calls the police. No wonder they think they're all, like, working together and stuff.
Yeah.
Her worried family reports the assault to the police, but they could not find the naked woman or Hugh, who was living under a false identity. And I'm like, man, damn. I mean, I guess I get it.
I wonder. So let's just say he got caught and he was put in jail, blah, blah, blah. Jay dies. This entity, he's stuck in prison now. Do you think it would make a form small enough to get through the bars and just kill him?
I don't know. I don't know how they would travel, too. Honestly, I feel like part of the situation is just going to another country, just being like, I really love to travel now.
That's what I'm saying. Just like, that gives you a somewhat amount of time.
Yeah. But then, like, I don't know how far they went when they do travel out, but I wonder.
They'll keep going until they get you. It's just the ocean of it all. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Just like swimming. Just imagine it. It's like going.
The funny thing is, too, like, I really wish that they gave some, like, distances on how far they go when they do get in the car and go away from it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I would love to see, like, because they say it's slow, but it's not stupid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so, you know, like, if I just go across the country or something like that, it's not going to come and get me for weeks or whatever, like, however long it would take to walk across the country. But then, like, in certain places, they're just kind of waiting for a couple of hours and then it shows up, right. You know? Like, I'm like, how far are you really, though?
Well, if you think about it, so if it's walking, you don't have to go very far for it to walk. So, for example, for where I work, it takes, like, 20 minutes to drive. Mm-hmm. I've checked just for shits and giggles to see how long it would take to walk that. It's, like, 5 hours.
Right.
So, they don't go that far.
Right. Yeah.
They don't go very far. They're just like, oh, we're going to go into the city.
I guess. But still, sometimes I feel like they've gone a far distance and that I'm like, well, that would take days to walk, like as a real person. And then it's there within like 2 hours. I'm like, it's fast when you're not watching it.
Right. It's like fucking booking it, like 15 miles an hour running.
As soon as it gets in your eyesight, it's like, just slow down.
A little slow.
Gotta make them think we're slow. Mm-hmm. At school, Jay sees an old woman walking towards her, invisible to others, and runs. Jay's sister Kelly and her longtime friends Paul and Yara spend the night at Jay's house. Someone smashes a window. Paul goes to investigate but sees no one. When Jay checks, she sees a disheveled, urinating, half-naked woman walking toward her and runs upstairs to the others who cannot see the entity. And I'm like, this is an odd choice.
Yeah, I don't understand why she's going pee-pee.
I don't know. I'm like, some of them I'm like, this is just to be disturbing.
Yeah.
And then others just look like normal people.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's taking piss. And it's just like sometimes they're just butt-ass naked. Mm-hmm. Why?
And then sometimes they have clothes, sometimes they have eyes, sometimes they don't have eyes. Like, it's just...
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever they feel on that day.
They're just really mixing it up, you know? Just variety is the spice of life.
Like, I think I'm going to wear the lady that's urinating today. Like,
Mate, thought. So you said it might take the form of its last victim. What if it took like, right before it kills it, and the girl, it took the form of, like, peed because she was so scared.
Maybe.
And it just, because that's what it knows.
That's what I'm wondering, too. Like, I wonder if it gouged out that one guy's eyes or something like that, and that's why he looks that way, and, like, it's just, like, the last thing that they saw or whatever before they killed that last person, so now it's their form and they can use it.
Yeah. Like, it just takes the last thing it did.
Yeah.
So I thought,
I don't know, but then they transform into people that we know that are alive, like Yara.
Does it?
It does. It does. I'll get to it in the plot.
Yeah, you're right.
It does have other options, but it feels like it favors certain ones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Boobs out.
Boobs out. When a tall man enters the bedroom, and this is the one that's freaky. He
yeah,
has like no eyes. He's like 8 foot tall. Like
huge.
He has to duck to get in the doorway. And I'm like, no, I'd be done.
Yeah. I would literally have a heart attack.
I just fall on stuff. I fall on knives or whatever. I'd be like, I'm done. Done.
And then the friends would just watch you being mutilated by nothing.
That must be awful as well.
That'd be traumatizing. Yeah. Oh, there's just so many things to talk about. Sorry. We'll get through the plot.
I promise. We're just having a fun time. So Jay flees the house by bike. Her friends and neighbor Greg find her at the park. And they decide to go on a trip to find Hugh and learn his real name is Jeff Redmond.
Fucking Jeff.
Yeah, fucking Jeff. They all confront him at his home, and Jeff explains that the entity began pursuing him after a one-night stand, and reiterates that the only option is to sleep with someone else and implore them to do the same. He recommends that they drive to a distant location to buy herself the time to think about the option of passing it on to someone else. Greg drives Jay, Kelly, Yara, and Paul to his family's lake house the next day on the lakefront. While Greg leaves to pee, the entity arrives in the form of Yara and attacks Jay from behind by grabbing her hair, which is witnessed by her friends. Which now I'm saying, like, this is a person that's clearly alive, and yeah, it's just using it, I guess.
It's like, I like her. Yeah. And this is a part I'm like, okay, that's cool that they actually witnessed this happening. So I was like, oh shit. Like, this is the first moment they're like, okay. But also it was nice that even before they had the evidence, they still went with her to leave. So
right. That is nice. But then there's Greg. And I fucking hate Greg.
Fucking Greg.
All right, we're going to get to him.
Yeah, we'll get to Greg, yeah.
She flees in Greg's car and crashes, then wakes up in a hospital with a broken arm. Paranoid about being stationary in the hospital, to buy herself time, Jay has sex with Greg in the hospital. And this is the point where I'm like, I would be so paranoid about being in the hospital for any amount of time.
For sure.
I'd be paranoid about being anywhere for any amount of time. I'd be like, well, gotta stay in my car.
Yeah.
And I would just like circle blocks or whatever.
And eventually you'll see some... Sorry. I just imagine you like circling a parking lot, but going like 5 miles an hour just to make it follow you. You're going like the exact speed it's going.
Yes.
So that it's just following you in a car. And that's just your day. Because that way, you know where it is at all times.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Because at least you know where the fuck it is. Because any other time, I could not relax ever.
Right.
I could not go to the store.
And then anytime you wanted to go to sleep, you'd have to drive at least a few hours out just to give yourself some time.
Right.
And even that seems kind of limited because apparently it's supersonic fast when it's not being watched.
I would never sleep. Yeah.
The only problem is like when you run out of gas, it's still right behind you. So like...
At the gas station, just like looking around. Bitch. Yeah, no, it's such a bleak existence.
It's a bad situation, yeah.
And I think because it takes the form of humans, usually, I won't say usually, because sometimes it's like a naked person. Now, like obviously it's that. But if they're just like a person with normal clothes, you just never know.
Yeah.
It could just come up behind you.
Yeah, especially if it's not like someone that's disturbed looking or whatever like that. Like obviously a naked person, like people are going to take notice. But like if just a random dude in a hoodie or something like that, no one's going to look. And obviously they can't see him, but it's not going to give you pause.
Right, exactly. Oh, God, it's just...
I hate it. I hate it all.
I know. This is like the one fate in a horror movie. You're like, you'd rather just die.
Yeah, I think so.
Just fucking kill me.
So Greg wants to help Jay, but denies the existence of the entity despite the insistence of Jay's friends. So I guess he just chalks it up to, like, she just needs help or something like that, like mental help.
Yeah, and the friends who just witnessed.
What have you been doing with us for the last few days? Don't you have a life? If you don't believe that this is happening, why are you here? Yeah. I want to know why are you here.
What are you doing, sir?
Mm-hmm. Later, Jay sees the entity in the form of Greg walking towards Greg's house. It smashes a window and enters. Jay runs into the house and finds the entity in the form of Greg's half-naked mother attacking, and I put /raping question mark?
Just like humping him to death.
Yeah, and killing Greg. And I'm like, I wonder if that's why when her friends kind of see the thing attacking her, they don't physically see, but they see her hair being pulled and lifting up and stuff like that. I wonder if that's why it doesn't just like, go and break your neck. Like it physically is going to assault you sexually before you die.
Yeah, because it had an opportunity to just like...
Yeah, because it was right behind her. It could have just been like, all done.
Bye.
Yeah.
He was going to pull her hair or something. And also, it's interesting that even though you're not the active target, you still see it.
Yeah.
So like you just forever see it now.
Right.
Even though if you're not the current one, the most recent one, you still see it.
Yeah, because when she first gets into Greg's house, like the creature hasn't really attacked Greg yet. It's just knocking on his bedroom door.
And it looks at her.
And it's pretending to be Greg's mom. And they just look at each other in the eyes and it's just like, it just keeps knocking. You're like, okay.
Yeah, because she's not the current target. Yeah. So it's just so weird that like it doesn't care anymore.
Like it acknowledges you, but it's like, no, you got to go first.
And then you.
Yeah, then I'll be you.
So interesting. I just love the plot.
Yes. Jay flees by car and spends the night outdoors. On a beach, Jay sees 3 young men on a boat. She partially undresses and walks into the water.
I had a question. Did she have sex with these men?
I think that's what's assumed.
Okay, that's what I thought. But then I looked it up and I couldn't find...
I think it's just a question.
Because then they definitely died then.
Yeah, I think that, like, she bought herself some time, but, you know, like, she didn't tell him what it was or what was going to happen.
Like, a foursome? Because there's 3 guys, right?
Yeah, I did look that up, too, because I was curious if there was ever any guarantee that she did, and I guess it's all up to speculation. But I saw someone theorize that maybe what she did wasn't exactly full-on sex, and it was something else, and she thought it was a sexual encounter and it might have worked, but she didn't know, like, the whole parameters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's
it.
the line of sex?
Yeah,
like
right. Like, yeah, yeah.
Like, what do I mean?
So I think there's either that or that she did have a threesome with all of them, or a foursome, and, you know, they didn't know what it was, so it just kind of killed them one after another because they didn't know how to protect themselves from it.
Yeah, that's what I thought happened because she, like, undressing and she goes in the water. I'm like, oh, she definitely did that.
She does look like she's gonna do that.
Yeah, okay. Do the thing.
Do the thing.
Do it.
Back home, Paul, willing to take the risk, asks Jay to pass it on to him, but she refuses. And I'm like, but I mean, you let Greg do it. Like, and
but
Paul,
she likes Paul.
I guess.
Like, as a person.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of was like, get out of here, Paul. Like the whole time, I'm like, I get it, Paul, but no.
I mean, it's one of those things like, hey, if you want to do it, then fine.
I guess.
I'm not going to stop you.
I don't know. It felt like a weird, like, way to use her to get in a relationship with her.
You think so? I don't know.
I guess you could see it in multiple ways, because I think that they also had, like, a good friendship as well. They were each other's first kiss or something they mentioned and stuff, but I don't know.
I think, I do think it was a little opportunistic.
Yes.
Because he obviously likes her. But he was there to witness, you know, the hair pulling and
knows what happened to Greg and everything.
Right. So, like, I think it's twofold. I think he's using it for an opportunity, but I think he genuinely is like, I'm willing to take this risk for you.
Yes.
So,
I guess. I see it both ways, too. Like, in one way, I'm like, yeah, oh, he really loves her. That's why he wants to do this with her. But then another way, I'm like, you weren't together before, right, is the thing. So, obviously, like, she didn't feel the same way. Or you guys would have been dating.
Exactly. Because I also feel like Paul would be the type to, like, hold it against her. Mm-hmm. Like, I did this for you, so now we should...
Yeah.
So
that's why I feel like it is.
I could see it.
Because we see a lot of clips of Paul just, like, skulking in the corner whenever she talks to Greg. Like, I want to be chased by an entity, too.
Yeah, give me entity.
I want to do it.
I want sex entity now. Give me... entity!
The group plans a last-ditch effort to kill the entity by luring it into a swimming pool and dropping electrical devices into the water. And I'm like, why is this the plan?
This is so elaborate for no reason. I'm like,
and like,
what are you
they already
doing?
shot it, and it just, like, got back up. Like, it like barely blinked.
And also, this backfires so bad.
Yes.
This is the one part where I was like, this was a little... convoluted.
Right.
And it just goes so bad for them. I was like, oh, you did not think this through at all.
Jay waits in the pool until the entity arrives and is even more unsettled by the fact that she seems to recognize who it's posing as. I saw somewhere that it was supposed to be her dad, but I didn't see any pictures of her dad, so I wasn't sure.
Right.
But so I didn't really want to say that specifically. Instead of entering the pool, it throws the devices at her, like a TV and like heavy stuff.
And it's like direct hit every time. He's like it's whipping it at her.
Practically hitting her in the head every single time.
I was like, no! What a fail this was.
Mm-hmm. Firing at an invisible target, Paul accidentally wounds Yara, but shoots the entity twice before it falls into the pool.
Fucking Yara gets shot in the leg.
I know. I'm like, poor girl. Like... can't even see what they're fighting, and she's just like, yep, my leg. Like, oh, my leg.
My leg. This just all goes so sideways.
Yeah. As it pulls Jay underwater, Paul shoots it again, and Jay escapes as it sinks to the bottom. When Paul asks if it's dead, Jay approaches the pool. She alone watches as it fills with blood. So she's the only one that can see that it's been maimed or killed, maybe.
Yeah, just blood. A lot of it. A lot of blood.
Back at Jay's house, Jay and Paul have sex. Paul drives through town passing prostitutes, while Yara recovers at a hospital. Later, Jay and Paul walk down the street holding hands as a figure walks behind them.
Do you think it's it? Or do you think it's just
it's a normal-looking dude. So I was like, I don't know if it's really the guy or not.
They leave it, like, open.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no!
Do you think that Paul was able to pass it on to someone?
No.
Or you think he was just, like, contemplating?
Yeah, I think it was just contemplating. I personally, I mean, who knows? It's open, but I do like how they end it.
Yes.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, I like all the question marks and stuff like that. It's good because it keeps you talking and theorizing.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I can't remember if I talk about it in the topic, but the director and the writer was basically like, it doesn't really matter where it came from. That's not like the point of it. Mm-hmm. And I really like being able to speculate and talk about like where it came from. Who was the first person? Like, how many people down the row is it? Like, how long has it been around? That kind of a thing.
Yeah. I know that it's not really about who started or that, but I was like, I'd like to know how it was created.
Yeah.
At least that. Like, I don't even need to know the person, but.
Right. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, but a lot of the times for me, when they actually come up with an explanation, it's usually
not
like
as
bad.
Satisfactory.
It's like, yeah. Because, like, how would you even explain this?
Right.
It's like a curse. Like, it could be a witch curse somebody. Or, shit, now I want to... Okay, so in my head, now that I say that out loud, I think it would be cool if it was a witch or something. Mm-hmm. She was, like, maybe sexually assaulted.
Oh, as revenge.
Like, as revenge.
Now, like, my assailant is being attacked by this, but didn't see the repercussions of it being passed on or something like that.
I think that would be, like, the least weird thing. Or, like, I think I would be satisfied with something like that.
Yeah.
But they don't know. Maybe in the sequel they'll... Because they says they follow.
Oh,
so
yeah. So that means
are there
that
multiple? That's bad. Yeah. That's no good.
Oh, no.
Do you want to talk about our rating for this movie?
Yeah, let's do it.
What did you put it as?
I had it as a 7.
Funny enough, I put it higher as an 8.
Really? Okay.
I did. I thought... Funny enough, it's in the category of, is there something behind me?
Which just literally it follows.
Perfect.
Yes.
And I really, the guy, like in that one scene alone, the way it's shot, where you just see him come out of the darkness.
He
like,
comes fast.
I literally get chills watching it. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. That's something I think about. Mm-hmm. Like, if that were me. And it's interesting because Yara, it comes up behind Yara and she doesn't see it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it even more unsettling.
Right.
It's like she just has no idea.
Right. And it just doesn't, obviously it's not after her. So it's just like.
Care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was. I'd even bump it up to an 8, honestly, to agree with you there. But.
Because you know what that reminds me of, too? Like when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and sometimes like I'll think of something creepy, and I just imagine something like that coming down the hallway at me. No. Mm-mm. No, ma'am.
No.
I cannot. Like, just imagine, like, just peeking around the corner and coming at you.
It wastes no time breaking into Greg's house, for instance. Like, they say it's slow. It jumped through that window so quickly. I was like, are you a gymnast? Like,
yeah, it's like it power walks. It doesn't run.
Yeah.
But it's going. It's zooming. It's like ready to go.
Yeah.
And I think the movie, less visually scary, but just the thought and the implication and everything Jay is going through is the worst.
It's like the dread and like the one guy is super creepy. Even like the little kid too, like the one that like reaches through the door. He has like a weird face or something for a second. But it does the tall dude again too. So I think it uses different forms based on like what is needed for that moment or something like that.
But it doesn't make sense because like he's too big to fit through the door. So why did you pick that form? I just think I don't think it really thinks. I think it just
mindless.
Does whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But it's just terrible. It's a scary concept.
I know. I'm curious if they'll try to follow it up in the They Follows, like with multiple country travel or something like that. Like
that'd
how,
be cool.
how does
I
it
would
get
really
to
like
you?
To see. But then I'm also afraid it's goofy and it's like swimming. Like I joked. I hope it's not something like that. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it would be less silly for it to swim compared to it being on a plane.
Oh yeah. I think anyway, I feel like any way it crosses the ocean will be a little silly.
Yeah.
Maybe a boat. I could see it walking on a boat. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be as silly as boarding a plane. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, this is definitely a movie that
makes you think.
It freaks me out. Mm-hmm. Like if I were to think about it.
Oh, for sure.
I'm good. New.
Before we get into our topic, we're going to cut to a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. I'm Josh.
And I'm Brett.
If you're looking for a different horror podcast, one that stands out from the rest,
well, don't look here.
Absolutely not. Every week we talk about our favorite horror movies and some of our favorite aspects of those horror movies.
So that's something that interests you? Check us out.
The only thing that sets us apart is that it's us. So if you like the sound of our voices,
check us out at the Evil Desk Podcast,
wherever it is that you find podcasts.
So for my topic, I wanted to explore a little bit about sex in horror movies, especially the whole trope of, like, if you have sex, you die. So I found an article from AskMen.com. It's called A History of Sex and Horror in Cinema, and it's by Bobby Box, and he came out with this article on October 26th in 2021. So that's where I pulled all my information from. So the very beginning part of this, I pulled from just some information on the movie, and I'll say when in my research I talk about the article. Mm-hmm. But one of the interpretations of this was a parable about HIV and AIDS and other sexually transmitted infections, obviously, and the social perceptions thereof, and the sexual revolution, actually, and primal anxieties about intimacy. So the writer and director, Mitchell, stated, "I'm not personally that interested on where it came from," which I kind of said already. Mm-hmm. To me, it's dream logic in the sense that they're in a nightmare, and when you're in a nightmare, there's no solving the nightmare, even if you're trying to solve it. So, like I said, he doesn't really give a shit.
Care about the origin of it, yeah.
So sex is a prevalent theme in the majority of horror movies, where characters who engage in sexual activity often die, portrayed as impure and too preoccupied with desire to survive until the conclusion. Conversely, those who abstain from such activities and focus on confronting the antagonist typically manage to survive till the end of the day. In the article, Bobby interviewed Michael Verratti, a filmmaker and host of the queer horror podcast Dead for Filth, along with film critic and writer Abby Olses, to shed light on the interconnected dynamic. So this is a quote. "Horror by its definition is a genre of subversion," says Verratti. "It often utilizes the lens of the fantastic to shine a light on things we don't feel comfortable tackling directly. With that in mind, it makes sense that sex and horror find a common ground. Both are something the world portrays as a bit naughty, and both are primal." Olses agrees that there is a psychological link between sex and horror, as both inspire strong emotion and physical reactions. She says, "Because of Western culture's historically conservative relationships to sex, it's become something kind of dark and forbidden," she says. "In today's more sex-positive society, this theme has evolved, presenting sex and its fatal outcome in a new context." And they actually mentioned It Follows, which is why I wanted to pull this article. Okay. It Follows is a 2014 film, serves as a compelling example of this revolution. While still embracing the notion of sex leading to death, it approaches the concept from a completely different thematic perspective. David Robert Mitchell, who is, again, the writer-director, isn't using it as an excuse for gratuity, notes Alsace. Instead, he's looking at sex as a passage from childhood into adulthood, and the loss of innocence, sudden sense of mortality that go along with the transition. It's maybe the more psychological exploration of sex and death that I've seen in the genre. The article goes to say, the horror cliche actually didn't become popular until the 80s. There was a period in the late 60s and 70s where a lot of horror was really exploring sexuality and eroticism, says Verratti. There was definitely a focus on seduction and the allure of darkness where sex was present, but not an assured death curse. When discussing having sex for the first time in a horror movie, Verratti states, "It's a moment of liberation that's immediately taken away. I think that as the trope wore on, you can see it being boiled down to the essence of you have sex, you die. By the mid-80s, it became part of the formula." Interestingly enough, Verratti points out that the trope runs parallel with the rise of the conservative era of Ronald Reagan as well as the dawn of the AIDS crisis. The article then goes on to discuss the treatment of women in horror. While horror is the only genre that has more on-screen and speaking time for women than men, it also has a lot of gratuitous female nudity. The article talks about how it's usually always the women who gets punished for sex, and when men die, their deaths are rarely prolonged or lingered on. Verratti then states, "If the trope is utilized to take away someone's agency or power with no clear-cut message other than to diminish them, then I absolutely think there's a problem with the narrative that's being sowed." He says, adding that the same kind of discrimination is often applied to queer characters and people of color. In the past, sex in scary movies was often portrayed as a way to showcase innocence and character development. However, as society has progressed, it has embraced more progressive and sex-positive attitudes. Given horror's tendency to mirror the present cultural climate, it's likely that this outdated portrayal of sex in scary movies will undergo an evolution.
Yeah, that would be nice, honestly.
Yeah.
That would be more accurate, I feel like, but it's an interesting concept.
What, just like having sex, you die?
Yeah, basically, like you're punished for that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's time consuming when you're being chased by a killer to break for that, but
I know, like, now's not the time, but
yeah, but I also feel like since it's been a trope for so long now, too, like it would be refreshing at this point for like characters to have sex and then nothing happens to them right after, or because usually it's like mid or right after sex or something. Like for Scream in the instance, like Ghostface comes in to kill them right after.
Yeah, I mean, they even say, you have sex, you die. I just like the whole point, like, it takes away your agency.
Yeah.
And, like, here's this thing you did, and now you have to die for it.
Right.
Like, sorry.
I also like the whole implication for AIDS and everything as well, because especially with Jay's motive too, like, well, now you're being punished because you have sex, but now you have to also reverse it by having sex because, that's the only way you can get rid of it, but you're also still taking a risk because, you don't know if the other person has their own entity that's following them.
Everyone has their own entity, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but it's like being at risk, like by having unprotected sex.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, it's interesting that, like, having sex got her in the situation, but that's also her power to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like what they were alluding to in the article, just like how that whole dynamic. It's not like sexy sex. It's like, I got to do this to survive kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to, I'm having sex and I'll die now.
Right.
I'm having sex to survive. So.
Yeah, I get it. That was really interesting.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful, and we'll always appreciate it.
Spotify users can now comment on our episodes, so we'd love to hear from you, and you can tell us how we're doing or even suggest movies you'd like us to watch. And you can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
If I could, then I would. I'll go wherever you will go, way up high or down low. I'll go wherever you will go. If I could turn back time, I'll go wherever you will go. If I could make you mine, I'll go wherever you will go. Poor taste, I know.
Are you the entity in this situation?
Apparently, yes.
Oh my god. Could you imagine singing through the window?